Well, joining me to discuss this again is Laura Young, climate activist and environmental scientist as well, and Dominic Kavakeb, senior communications advisor at Global Witness. Good to have you both in the same place at the same time. Dominic, to you first, because we haven't had a chance to catch up yet. What have you made of what we've been hearing this morning?
So, I mean, look, it's great that we're targeting coal, and it's really great to see so many countries agreeing on it. But the reason why so many people are looking to this COP, especially this year and this time here in Glasgow, is because it has to be ambitious. We know that time is running out. We know that we need huge ambition to really tackle the climate crisis. And it's not just coal as a fossil fuel that is contributing, oil and gas as well. And what's really important is that we don't see all of these countries who are today agreeing to phase out coal just moving to another form of fossil fuel. That's shifting the deck chairs on the Titanic, and it's really not going to help us in the long term to fight the climate crisis.
We are expecting to hear some announcements later this morning about oil and gas as well. But, I mean, is it not a good thing to come off the most intensive carbon-emitting fuel, even if you are going to something that's still a fossil fuel but is less intensive on the carbon? It's better than not, isn't it?
Well, what we've seen in the last few years is that emissions on coal are going down, whereas emissions on oil and gas are going up. So coal is already on the way out, and I know there was a big statement last night about the end of coal. Coal was already coming towards an end, and yeah, it's great that this could be the nail in the coffin for that. But you know, we have to think longer term.
Mindset shift is
yeah,
what
absolutely.
we need. So we're not going from coal to oil and gas and thinking that's good. It's thinking let's skip that step.
Absolutely. Otherwise, we're going to be here having the same conversations about oil and gas in a few years' time, and we don't have that time. We don't have those years left. So really, we need to be targeting fossil fuels as a whole all over the world if we're going to really make the change we need to see to tackle the climate crisis.
Laura, of course, what we need is the renewables market to be developed enough for those resources to be there to take the place of the fossil fuels that we've been using. What's your view of where we are on that?
This is the critical moment for that. The really good things about the announcements today is we're looking at both domestic and international coal, but I echo everything that Dominic said about needing to go much further. We know that to keep warming under 1.5, we need to stop all new fossil fuels, not by 2040, but really by this year, you know? And I think that's important. But the other conversation we need to have is again about that climate finance. It's about the big countries who do rely on coal need investment, particularly from the richer countries, to help them move along and invest in their renewables. We've got the technology. The technology has been coming on strides in the last 10, 15 years, and it's also become a lot more affordable. So we need to be making renewables cheaper, but also investing overseas on that. And we are just at the beginning of Energy Day. We hopefully will get lots more announcements about different types of not just coal, but also how we're going to be moving away from fossil fuels, because that 1.5 is critical. And we know that this coal announcement on its own will not mean that we get to 1.5 or keep under 1.5, and that is the difference between lives. You know, Mia Motley yesterday had a really powerful speech during the World Summers. Yeah, the Barbados Prime Minister, and she said the cost of this is lives. It's not about money, it's about lives, and this announcement alone won't do that, but it's getting us in the right direction. We've got a whole extra day for this as well.
And just a question to you, Dominic. We were hearing a lot about finance yesterday and the efforts to really bring together, to blend public and private finance. Some of these renewable sectors are way off being profitable. It's going to be that key blended finance, isn't it, that's going to get the investment going towards the sectors that are not yet profitable, because or else why would money go there?
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, the reason why money would go there is because that's the transition that we need to avert major climate disaster. And I think, yeah, totally, like, we need to start seeing that investment come into renewable technology, you know, as Laura has already been saying. But you know, what we also need to start divesting away from fossil fuels. You know, you do need both those things happening at the same time if we're going to see the change that we really need.
India and China. Laura, I mean, there's been some criticism that India announced this 2070 commitment with its NDCs, China, of course, 2060. But within that, India did commit to, I think, using half renewables by the end of the decade. That's a big deal.
It is. I was here in this blue zone in the summit when that announcement came up. And I'm going to be honest, I think a lot of people had a bit of a mixed view. A lot of people heard the 2070 and just thought that's a really negative number and thought quite badly. But we know that the science, we've been doing some maths, we've been looking at it critically, and we know that there is a lot of good inside that pledge and the other things about the renewable energy, about getting 50% by 2030. That is a really big step in the right direction. And so we need to see the positives in this. But again, we're on day 4 and we've already seen so much good come out of this. But there's also a whole, can't do the maths, 8 more days to work on more commitments. And I think that's the important thing. You know, currently we've got lists of countries in these commitments. There's more than enough time to add on more countries to that. And again, move more than just coal. You know, this morning we've heard coal, but again, we've got a whole extra day of energy. So we've got how many more hours left today to hopefully get some more and to be doing that campaigning from inside here as well.
Dominic, there was a report out, I think today, from the University of Melbourne, which says that given what we've seen so far in terms of pledges, you know, albeit we're on day 4, that it estimates that it should be enough to keep global warming to 1.9. So within what was agreed in Paris, of course, not the aim of 1.5, but that is an improvement.
It's not enough. It's not enough. We have to meet 1.5. I mean, like, the science is absolutely fundamentally clear, and we've been told time and time again, we're not aiming for 1.9, we're not aiming for 1.8, we're aiming to keep warming beneath 1.5 degrees. And that's what we have to keep working towards, and we have to keep pushing on all levels. And I think, you know, it's so great that there's so much attention and focus here and over the next couple of weeks at COP, but what really matters is what's going to come next and whether countries are actually going to implement the things that they say they're going to do here and whether those agreements are actually going to be binding. Paris is a warning to all of us. Paris is the warning that actually without that action consistently taking place over time, we're not going to progress any further. And so I think, yeah, let's make sure we're keeping an eye on what's happening at COP here, but we've got to keep going and we've got to keep making sure that, you know, every single one of those pledges that countries and companies and everybody else has signed up to are actually implemented come the end.
And what we saw after a very long sort of final few days of Paris was this commitment to keep it to under 2, but with the aim of 1.5. Do you think, I mean, is there any hope that at the end of this conference we could have a more firm commitment to that 1.5?
We have to have hope. We wouldn't be here if we didn't have at least some form of hope.
Well, that sounds like hope against hope to me.
Well, it's easy to be sceptical. It's very, very easy to be sceptical about these things. But as Laura quite rightly said, we've still got a lot of time left in this conference, and we're definitely very, very, very hopeful that that the right measures can be agreed upon by lots of different countries. But there's such a long way to go, and I think, you know, we've really got to make sure that everyone is playing their part to aim for 1.5. Settling for 1.9 or anything else is just not going to work.
What could be a key catalyst, do you think, to really focus the minds on that 1.5 rather than thinking, actually, you know, we've got some headroom to get from 1.5 to 2?
Well, it's hard to say what the catalyst would be because we already have had those catalysts. You know, if you just have to look around what's happening, you know, all over the world in terms of floods and wildfires and all kinds of, you know, disasters happening as a result of climate change. We have those catalysts already taking place. So it's really hard to know exactly how much more you can wake people up. What else can you say? I mean, I'm sure you've been doing this for a long time, as have I. Like, what else can we actually say to try and make people reach those kind of to reach those agreements?
I mean, in terms of horse trading that's going to happen here over the next 8 days, I think we established, didn't we, that we've got left. What could bring about a change, do you think, Ashif? I mean, the fact that China's not on this list of 190, do you think they might think, oh, this doesn't look good, or do you think they're going to be happy to keep going, you know, as a big emitter, going alone on that?
I think, look, any outliers in these talks and in these negotiations who perhaps aren't here or, you know, are not part of the agenda, will definitely have a look at what's. Of course, they'll know what's been agreed, and of course they'll be keeping an eye on it, and they'll feel the pressure. So, you know, I wouldn't overly concern myself about, you know, those who aren't here. I think it's really important that those who are here are ambitious and make the kind of pledges, and that's why, you know, this coal announcement, as fantastic as it is, and, you know, I don't want to be too negative about it because, you know, that's great, but, you know, we need more ambition than that. We need to be targeting all fossil fuels. It's that kind of ambition that will make those who aren't here sit up and take notice and say, actually, we need to do something.